I don't take any lessons from the leader of the opposition when it comes to how people, marginalized people, feel. I'm an Italian Canadian.
Oh my gabagool. There is some madness going on in the Ontario legislature. So, a conservative MPP today claimed that he understands the discrimination that marginalized groups like Palestinians are facing because he is Italian. And he so deeply understands that discrimination that he is with the party that is currently supporting a ban on the Keffiyeh. Now, I'm going to try to break down what is going on here, what's been going on in Ontario over the past couple of weeks over the Keffiyeh. This is such a wild story because the speaker is the one that brought in this ban, banning the wearing of the Keffiyeh in the Ontario legislature, which led to even Doug Ford, the leader of the Conservatives, urging a reversal on that ban. So he went on to, and there's more to that, by the way, but here's what he said.
The Keffiyeh goes back to the 7th century, but it really comes down to uniting Ontarians and communities. We see the division right now that's going on. It's not healthy, and this would just divide the community even more. So I stand by that, and we'll bring it to the legislature.
All right, so I'm going to get to a little more backstory as to why Doug Ford is on the correct side here. Because when I first saw that he was against this ban, I was stunned. And then I learned a little more, which helped to explain why he is maybe very likely on the correct side of this issue. But this is the NDP, Ontario's NDP leader, Merritt Stiles, who tweeted out today, I sought unanimous consent in the legislature to reverse the Keffiyeh ban at Queen's Park. It did not go through. Some members of the Conservative government voted against the motion. Premier Ford needs to make sure that his team is doing the right thing. So this was from, I believe, the 18th. Let me play just a bit of this.
On April 12th, I received a letter from the Leader of His Majesty's Loyal Opposition. She asked that I permit the wearing of the Keffiyeh in the Assembly. As always, any member may seek the unanimous consent of the House to wear clothing, buttons, ribbons, etc., which may fall outside the established rules or customs of the House. If a member sought unanimous consent to wear a Keffiyeh, and if the House were to grant such consent, I would obviously accept the decision of the House.
That I seek unanimous consent.
So just to be clear there, that's the speaker saying that if the legislature votes, against him and supports bringing the Keffiyeh back in or allowing the Keffiyeh to be worn, then he would support what the members decide.
Consent that this House acknowledge that the Keffiyeh is a culturally significant clothing item to many in Ontario's Palestinian, Muslim, and Arab communities, and should neither be considered an expression of a political message nor an accessory likely to cause disorder, and should therefore be permitted to be worn in the House.
Agreed? No. I heard some no's.
And that was it. So Colin DeMello of Global News here writing, Doug Ford is giving PC MPPs a free vote on the Keffiyeh ban issue, meaning he doesn't really care if he's allowing his MPs to do whatever the hell they want. What's important to him is keeping up appearances here. And again, I'll get to you later on as to why that is. So if he cared enough about this issue, then he would be whipping the votes to ensure that the Keffiyeh is allowed. But MPP Robin Martin has signaled that she's going to vote against an attempt to reverse the ban at Queen's Park. So Robin Martin is in support of banning the Keffiyeh. Going on to say here, the rules of the legislature are clear that props and clothing that make a political statement cannot be worn in the chamber. Interestingly, she wears dog tags, which I have no issue with. But under her own definition, props and clothing that make political statements, how do dog tags not fall under that? Of course they fall under that. That's under her own definition, that is a prop making a political statement. As David Moscrop writes here, the dog tag necklace is political, it's a prop, and it should be banned from the legislature. That's the logic of those who support a Keffiyeh ban anyway. So what's the rule here? Of course there's no consistency. Of course. So this goes to today. It was the motion to allow it was voted down again, failed a second time. And that's when we get to this incredible moment. This is an exchange between, you're going to see NDP leader Merritt Stiles and then the PC MPP, who I'll get to a little more on in a second.
This morning I planned to meet with the Arab Canadian Lawyers Association, but as they walked into Queen's Park, they were barred from entering this building because of their cultural attire. In this week alone, the Premier made a public declaration about the need to reverse the Keffiyeh ban, but his members blocked it. He's admitted he thinks his own post-secondary legislation is an overreach, but his minister doubled down and forced him to recant. Question period is just not long enough for me to capture the full list of this government and this Premier's policy reversals and flip-flops. Ontarians are the ones that are paying the price here. Is the government caucus losing faith in their Premier, or has the Premier lost faith in his caucus?
And to reply, the Government House Leader.
Mr. Speaker, I think the Leader of the Opposition shows today why she can never lead the province of Ontario, because what she has chosen to do, Mr. Speaker, is to attempt to divide Ontarians, Mr. Speaker. I come from a caucus that is the most diverse caucus in the history of this province, Mr. Speaker. I don't take any lessons from the Leader of the Opposition when it comes to how people, marginalized people, feel. I'm an Italian Canadian who in the 1970s was spit on for being a wop. I don't need any lessons from her on what it means to stand up for marginalized people. I do it every single day, and so do the rest of my caucus mates, and we bring people together. We don't divide them.
This righteous indignation is absolutely incredible. Because if you want to take, let's take his word. He was discriminated against. He was spit on because he's Italian. That makes you look worse, because that experience clearly did not develop any empathy within you to be able to relate to others who are currently being discriminated against, as your party is the one supporting the ban on the Keffiyeh. How do you use your experience as an Italian and use it to apply to a situation where you are on the wrong side of the discrimination? So it's just like, did that just completely fly over his head? Not to mention, I mean, the comparison's a little ridiculous. Please, comparing Italians to Palestinians and what they're currently going through. I mean, do I have to? Let's just briefly touch on some of this. This is from January, by the way. Daily death rate in Gaza higher than any other major 21st century conflict. And we don't even have accurate numbers now because of the mass destruction that the apartheid Israeli government has caused in Gaza. There is no ability to accurately count the people that have either their lives have been lost, or they've been forced to move, or injuries. There is no ability in place. There's no infrastructure in place to be able to accurately assess all of that anymore anyways. From the UN experts appalled by reported human rights violations against Palestinian women and girls. That's from February as well. As this from NPR, Gaza's death toll now exceeds 30,000. Here's why it's an incomplete count. And that goes to what I was saying, where, again, we don't know what the actual number is. There's estimates that are around 100,000. We simply don't know because there is no ability to accurately count it all. To me, if you think the Keffiyeh is a political statement, wearing that or allowing people to wear that is a political statement, to me that says more about your politics, where you view politics more as a game, more as, oh, you take this position, I take this position, as opposed to human life, in support of human life. Like, you could try and argue that wearing the Keffiyeh is making a political statement, but to me, that's simply arguing that supporting human life is making a political statement. I don't think supporting human life is making a political statement. You may think it is. I think that's just being human. Now, this gets to the apology that, this apology was for wealthy real estate developers. Yeah, no, he didn't apologize for making that ridiculous comparison. No, he apologized to wealthy real estate developers for being caught after their Greenbelt fiasco. So I did a lot of videos on the whole Greenbelt thing. Go back and watch that. Some of the reactions, though, to that clip. the meme, the famous Sopranos clip.
It's anti-Italian discrimination.
There you go. And then so that was posted by Housing Affordability Task Force Advocate. And Dan here did a little Photoshop. Paul Calandra on top of it. And then another meme worth noting, Josh shared this. He did the meme. Someone you know is gay. Someone you know is bi. Someone you know is transgender. Someone you know is Italian. Maybe even someone you love. Think before you speak hate. Now this gets to last thing to end on here. Why Doug Ford is on the correct side. This is from the Toronto Sun. So I'm not going to quote Brian Lilley on many things ever, but when it comes to the perspective of conservatives, him being one, he's probably correct here. In Milton's by-election, Gaza is dominating, not local issues. So this goes to likely why Ford is saying the right things here. Ford didn't do this for reasons of principle. He did it because he's worried about the result in the Milton by-election. So, of course, Brian Lilley is against the Keffiyeh. He wants it banned. So he is defending Ford here by saying he's doing it for politics. That's his defense of Doug Ford, saying that Doug Ford's doing this for political reasons, his way of defending Doug Ford. He also did this after telling his caucus not to say or post anything to social media about the Middle East until after the by-election. So Doug Ford is worried about a by-election in Milton that is being impacted by discussions around Gaza and wants to sort of just not upset certain voting blocks that may be upset by the Conservatives' position on this, which is why, again, Doug Ford on the correct side, even though he's not doing enough to get the rest of his party to be on the correct side of this.